Kyle was always happy, always smiling, full of life, full of energy. Your typical redhead.
But Kyle Green's happy childhood took a tragic turn one August morning when he was 7. Terry Green was out for her daily jog. Kyle accompanied her on his bike. They made their way through their neighborhood to this busy city street. In 1998, construction blocked the sidewalk. As Kyle rode in the bike lane, an 18-wheel semi passed, throwing him off balance and under the wheels of the massive truck. A short time later, Roger Green received a chilling phone call.
When I got the phone call, it was very difficult to hear. The helicopter, Life Flight, was there at the scene. And there was someone that had called me from their cell phone. I'm not to this day sure who it really was. And it was difficult because I could hear the bup, 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 bup of that helicopter, and it was hard to listen. But she was telling me, your son had been ran over by a semi-truck. He's laying in the street, and they're intubating him. They're helping him breathe. And I just remember being very, very scared.
Remarkably, Kyle clung to life as he arrived at the critical trauma center. What doctors found left everyone wondering how this little boy was still alive. Both lungs were collapsed, his liver lacerated. One kidney was detached and had to be removed. He had multiple broken bones. But most horrific of all was that Kyle had broken his neck in an injury similar to that suffered by actor Christopher Reeve. Kyle underwent 7 surgeries in 1 week. He survived, but remained in a coma. After 8 days, Kyle finally came out of the coma, but he was far from being out of danger. Kyle was at the trauma center 3 months. He would live, but doctors could promise nothing more.
I remember when the doctors came in and told us, with a spinal cord injury and the separation such as Kyle has, he's not going to move again. And I just remember the disturbing thought making it through my head 100 times. What would become of Kyle? Would Kyle ever be able to move at all? And actually got to a place in my mind where I sort of envisioned if I could take Kyle off of the ventilator and he could breathe on his own, and I could push him with a wheelchair into a movie theater, and we could sit there and just watch a movie and laugh together and enjoy that, that would be enough for me. Throughout the rehabilitation, there was another side of things beginning to transpire, and that was the medical costs, the bills. They were coming in. I remember seeing bills that said $79,000. There was one for $128,000. The bills were just pouring in. And we have a lifetime cap on our medical insurance, as most people do. I think we were 8 or 9 days into the accident, and we had surpassed our lifetime cap. And yet the bills continued to come in. So it put us in a very, very difficult position. I'm not particularly or by nature a litigious person. I'm not. We felt as though we had an obligation and a responsibility to Kyle to ensure that his needs would be well taken care of throughout his life. The next 2 years was a whole new chapter of life for us. It was mediations, litigation, pointed dialogue, some very, very tough discussions. But then there was one attorney on the other side, and he was personable, he was genuine, he was down to earth, he was real. And he said, I'm a dad. I can't imagine being in your place. And while I have a responsibility and an obligation to my client, I also have an obligation to make sure things go right. And we want to do the right thing. We want to do what's right for Kyle. I was then faced with 3 choices. I could put the money into some sort of trust and let a fiduciary, a bank, or some third party manage the monies. Quite frankly, I was truly uncomfortable with that. I wanted some hand in it because I'm Kyle's dad, and I want to make sure that he's well taken care of. So we really discounted that option. The other option was to take the monies in cash and invest it myself. Notwithstanding my 26 years in business and the fact that I work in a multi-billion-dollar organization, I would be remiss to think that I have the skills to take that amount of money and invest it and do so responsibly for Kyle. The third option was a structured settlement. I remember sitting down with the structured settlement specialist and talking about Kyle's life. And I think it was really at this point that sort of the light bulb went on, and I said, you know, this gentleman, while he is employed by and works for the defense, he's really going to take the monies and help us allocate it so that it would meet with Kyle's best interests and Kyle's lifetime needs. And we spent hours, I mean hours, sitting down and saying, well, if we give him too much early on, you know, he's still a young kid. We need to be responsible to him and, you know, really protect him from himself, if you will. And so we decided that at 21, Kyle may want to further his education. And so we allocated some resources at that point. We said about 26 to 28, he may want to buy a home. So we allocated another lump sum at that point. And so on through his life. You know, at 40, he may want to retire. He may want to travel. At 60, he'll need additional medical insurance, or, you know, really not sure what will come his way at that stage of the game. So we kicked in these lump sums throughout his life. We also structured the monthly income so that Kyle would have monies today. Monies for therapies, monies for travel, monies to support his needs. We've purchased a vehicle that helps Kyle move. And so there's monies allocated today. There's monies allocated through high school for his needs and monthly income. And I have to say, the checks are there on time. Every single check, consistent, they're there, they're exactly what they said they would be. And the burden of worrying about, am I going to take, you know, that burden on my shoulder to take that lump sum and do what was right for Kyle, that's a huge burden to bear. I actually have had friends that have come up and said, you're a businessman, you're smart, you work in a multi-billion-dollar organization. Could you not take that lump sum and invest in this and invest in that and do this and do that? There's risk associated with that. And when it comes to your children's well-being and when it comes to their needs, risk cannot play a factor. You need to stand on the security of what will work without fail. If someone were to come to me today and say, guess what happened to my child last week or last month, and they were a victim of an unfortunate accident, I'd have some very straightforward and deliberate advice for them. The first thing is make sure you secure competent representation, very strong, competent legal counsel, because you're going to need it. Secondly, practice full disclosure. Be totally honest, tell the truth, evaluate the needs of your child, make sure you understand what those needs are, and work to that end. Thirdly, without question, do your due diligence, explore your opportunities, but clearly, if it were me, I'd end up creating a structured settlement for my son once again.
Visit the IncomeStreamExchange at IncomeStreamXC.com or call for information without obligation, 888-666-2352.